Hi class, welcome again to another video on biomaterials, another test. We are going to discuss biocompatibility tests today, right? So, biocompatibility, as we all know, is the acceptance of a foreign material by the human body, right? You should not invoke any when you implant a foreign body inside the human being. It should not invoke any adverse reaction. It should not cause any further damage to the body, and it should serve a particular purpose, right? So biocompatibility means the body accepts it, the body welcomes it, the body does not have objection with the presence of a foreign body inside it, right? So there's a standard directive called as ISO 10993, which is the Biological Evaluation of Medical Device Directive, and it is one of the most recognized guideline by national regulatory body, including the FDA and the CE mark. And this guideline actually gives the manufacturer an insight of the biological tests that are necessary for assessing the safety of any medical device, right? The test should be performed depending upon the intended purpose of the medical device. Always, whatever the manufacturer claims that a particular medical device would be used for should be tested based on the tests that are given in the guideline. Now we shall have a discussion on this in a minute, but let me just finish what I want to say here, and then we'll move on to a table that would actually summarize the list of tests, right? So this, as a guideline, ISO 10993/1 has provided a checklist to the manufacturer for testing various devices. So let us have a look at the testing. Okay, so I'll just skip the slide and let us go directly to this checklist. So now you have category of your medical device, such as surface, external communicating, or implanted. So in surface device, you have a medical device that is contacting your skin. Let's get the laser pointer. Yeah, you have a medical device that could either come in contact with the skin or the mucosal membrane, or a breached or compromised skin. So breached or compromised skin is nothing but a skin with with a wound, right? The epidermis of your skin is like the outer layer of your skin is peeled for some reason. That can be because of an injury, that can be because of an incision, that can be because of anything, right? So next you have the contact duration, where they have three categories, A, B and C. So A is when the contact duration is less than 24 hours. B is when the contact duration is between 24 hours and 30 days. And C is the contact duration which is greater than 30 days, and it's also called as permanent, right? A is limited contact, B is prolonged contact, and C is permanent contact. Now let me give an example. I'm sure all of you would have given a blood test at some point in your life so far, right? So you go to get yourself tested. The nurse or the hematologist there would tie something around your bicep, and then take a vein near your elbow, and then put a syringe in and take the blood out, right? After that, they either put a cotton, they put a piece of cotton and ask you to press it tightly, or they put a small band-aid, right, around the wound and tell you to peel it off after some time, right? So this particular piece of cotton that you are using to press and to make sure that the blood is coagulated and it stops leaking out, right? You stop bleeding. So that piece of cotton or that piece of band-aid that is put on that small tiny incision is a limited contact surface device, right? It comes in contact with the skin for less than 24 hours. I mean, if you fancy, you keep it longer than 24 hours, but you are advised to remove the bandage in an hour or two, right? Because by that time, the thrombus formation would have occurred and blood would stop, and you would have stopped bleeding. So if you have an injury, right, you probably riding your bike and you fell off and you've bruised your skin. So you apply some, you clean it with antiseptic, and then you apply some medication like betadine or benzoin, and then you put a gauze pad on that wound, and then tie it around with a gauze bandage or put plaster on top of it, right? So this gauze with the medication would remain in contact with the wound for longer than 24 hours. So that would be a prolonged contact. And permanent contact is suppose a fracture cast, right? A bone fracture takes around 6 to 8 weeks to heal. So the cast would remain for at least 6 to 8 weeks. So that is again in contact with the skin only. It's not getting implanted. So it's in contact with the skin. So the plaster is a permanent skin contacting device in a plaster of Paris based cast, right? So this is just a trivial example that I gave. So if you see, if your device is surface and comes in contact with the skin, so irrespective of whether it has got limited contact, prolonged contact or permanent contact, you have to perform cytotoxicity test, which is a test to make sure that the cell death does not occur. You have to do sensitization test, and you have to do irritation or intracutaneous reactivity test. This has to be mandatorily done. You do not require systemic or acute toxicity tests, subacute and subchronic toxicity tests, and genotoxicity tests. This is not required, but these three tests are mandatory. Now, if for example I look at external communication device such as tissue, bone, and dentin, right? So if it is for a limited contact, less than 24 hours, you can get away with tests such as cytotoxicity, sensitization, and irritation, irritation tests. But if it is going to remain for prolonged contact or permanent contact, then you have to do all the 6 tests. So this is just a guideline. It depends upon. So this is why what I meant when I said intended use, right? As the manufacturer says that whatever external communicating device they are manufacturing, that is coming in contact with the tissue, tissue, bone, or dentin for less than 24 hours, then they can just do this. However, this, if they claim that it should be in contact with the tissue, bone, or dentin for less than 24 hours and then sell out to be used for a permanent implant, then they are in trouble, right? So blood based implanted device which come in contact with blood has to undergo all the possible tests, because blood is like traveling across the body, it's just circulating. So any contamination of blood would result in catastrophic reactions. So these are initial evaluation tests for consideration. So once you have initial evaluation, you have additional evaluation or supplemental tests as well. So these are like the implantation test, hemocompatibility test, chronic toxicity, carcinogenicity, reproductive development, and biodegradation. So hemocompatibility we have already discussed in detail in the first unit, so I'm not going to discuss it again here. But if you see blood device, right, devices that come in contact with blood and they are in permanent contact, then you have to do carcinogenicity, chronic toxicity, hemocompatibility, and implantation test. So reproductive and biodegradation test. Reproductive test is done if you think that your device is going to affect the reproduction of the species that the device is getting implanted into, and biodegradation is for biosorbable materials. So cytotoxicity and sensitization and irritation test. So rule of thumb is that whenever a medical device comes in contact with the human body, it has to undergo cytotoxicity and sensitization tests. So cytotoxicity is the death of the cell, right, around the particular, wherever the implant is implanted, medical device is implanted, surrounding tissue should not be necrotized. That is the cytotoxicity test. And the test procedure is given in ISO 10993/5, and this, these are like guidelines. I don't think it is required for you to go through these guidelines, but if you want to go through on your own time, please feel free to do so. I don't think it is within the scope of the syllabus to actually discuss the guideline per se, right? So if the device is not caused any necrosis, then the next test is to see if they invoke any allergic reaction or through potentially leachable substances, and this is done through sensitization and irritation tests. So cytotoxicity tests determine whether there is any necrosis occurring on the surrounding tissues, and sensitization and irritation tests see if there is any allergic reaction invoked by the implant. So sensitization tests are generally performed in vivo. However, without testing in vitro, you cannot like directly perform it in a human being. That's ethically not possible. So initial response of the material is assessed through an in vitro model, and then the actual test is performed in vivo. Cytotoxicity test is definitely performed in vitro, because if you insert the material inside a human and if it causes necrosis, then that can result in death of the person, right? Irritation test is most widely conducted test, and it can be and it is directed to the organ that is affected by the medical device. So sensitization and irritation tests are described in ISO 10993 10th annexure. Right, I hope you had a fruitful session with me today. I shall see you again in another video. I hope you take care till then.